London Reels. Way better idea. Sponsored by Xbrain. Every day I come into the studio, there's literally a million things to do. Whether it's booking a guest, taping a show, editing an episode, or trying to pitch that future sponsor. It's hard to know where to begin. So I took a tip from Martin Bjerregaard, our former guest, and I create a today list. It's not a to-do list, but it's those 3 things that you want to get done today. The ones you've been putting off, the phone calls you know you have to make. I focus on those, and I usually find I have a productive one. I hope that works for you. Today's Way Better Idea is brought to you by the guys at Xbrain. If you want to check out their grass-fed, free-range protein powder, you can go to xbrain.co.uk or click on the link below and get 15% off. Use the code LondonReal. Peace!
We're starting to get a consciousness that is different than it was even when we did the union 5-6 years ago. People are looking harder at things. They're examining the world in a different way. And a big part of that is just the internet. You can just do so much more research. You can, good, if you don't believe our film, and fact check the shit. And you know what that'll do? That's what a great film does, is it gets you to do more research. Don't take our word. We're filmmakers. I'm no fucking scientist or anything. We try to interview the best, and we try to get you the best information as clearly as, but put it in an entertaining way so that you retain it. That's another problem with informational docs, is they can get too PowerPoint, right? Where it's just like snooze. And that's why we include people like Joe Rogan and Wiz Khalifa and Be Real from Cypress Hill and all these other people that you get on board too. Here in town, we're going to be interviewing Rufus Hound, right? Who's a local guy that has never come out and really talked about other than something he did recently. He talked about he would decriminalize all drugs. He was on a platform. So, because those people, sometimes they, like Joe, when we did the union, and I'm sorry I'm getting off of why we're here in the UK.
We got time.
But he, we got him, we knew him as a Fear Factor guy, and then from UFC. I was a big UFC fan before it got mainstream. In Canada, UFC is as you know, when you go back, that's like Mecca.
It's big, right?
It's fighting's in our culture because it's been in hockey, we just fighting, we get it.
Everybody fights in Canada.
Yeah, we get it. There's guns and stuff, but it's not as big. It's guys will still say, you want to go outside? Yeah, let's go do it, right? And then they'll buy each other's beers a week later. Okay, you got the best of me, it's done. But
so was Rogan out of the weed closet? Was he just coming out?
He was one of the first, and that's what I'll give him. Joe is the coolest guy that he takes these nobodies from Canada and says, yes, I'll give you an interview for free. No problem. Come on this date. So we go. We have no previous resume. He's like, sure. Based on a friend, Todd McCormick. He's like, Joe, these guys are really good. This guy Adam sunk a lot of money from his dad. They need another celebrity face. And then Joe ended up being one of the best parts of the union. And the reason why is because you weren't expecting this from him, from people that knew him from Fear Factor and from UFC, didn't know that he smoked. And then that's one of the opening lines. I believed in it too. I didn't start smoking weed until I was 30. I realized I'd have been fucking tricked. You gotta be fucking kidding me, right? It's so everybody in the theater's like, that's a Fear Factor guy, right? It shocked them to see him talk about that.
So he came out of the closet on your movie?
Kind of. He'd already come out, but I think a lot of people hadn't seen him in that way, right? He'd done some other docs, pot docs that didn't really see the light of day, and he'd done some other little things, but then he got noticed on there. And then the thing about him, though, is he's very educated on it, and he's got the comedic background, so he hits you. And then he's got the regular guy. He brings up some super valid points in the union, but he does it in a funny way, right? Literally in the theater, because I've watched the film 300 times. And I don't mind watching it again if I'm in a theater, because I like to see people's response that haven't seen it, right? So I can go through it again. And then literally when Joe Rogan comes on, I'm like, and laughter will start in 1, 2. Because I know his lines, they trigger it every time, right? When it goes in
but that's
there.
what you want. Because you're making a dramatic story. It has to piece together. People can't. I love David Nutt. Actually, Professor Nutt's probably the exception. But you can't listen to the clinical story for too long. You need to. Oh, that's Be Real. Oh, it's Joe. He's cracking jokes.
Exactly. Right. But that is the key on how you retain the information, right? Is that it has to be entertaining too, right? That's why Inconvenient Truth, great doc, but fuck, that gets boring, right? Because it's just so it was originally just meant to be a PowerPoint presentation, right? Okay. And then they turned it into a film, and they won an Oscar, but that's why you need these people. That's why some people, I don't respond to any negative stuff. I'm really good at that. I've trained myself. Because some people are like, what the fuck are you and Wiz Khalifa, the gangster, being on here? First of all, he's not a gangster. He's more of a skater. He's super cool, young artist. Because he was funny as hell in the interview. He was great, and he's a celebrity, and he's going to bring a huge market that would normally come to see this movie to get educated on what's really going on. But at the same time, we're making a 90-minute movie that has to be entertaining while you retain information. And you have these guys on there, and they're great, and they're funny, and they make you retain things. I see memes all over the internet that are, they don't even quote the union, but they're his quotes from the union, right? Okay. That people are saying, like, this is, Joe would be like, yeah, you can abuse cheeseburgers too, right? He's like, but you don't go shutting down Burger King just because you can abuse something. I could take a fucking fork and jam it in my eyeball. Does it mean forks should be illegal? He's like, I could jump off a bridge. Let's nerf the world, right? And everyone's always howling in the theater and he says that. And he brings a valid point about, like, just because you can abuse something shouldn't make it illegal.
He's got to be the most outspoken, publicly known person in the world for the marijuana cause.
I think he's just the most interesting guy in Hollywood right now, like truly. And he's so down to earth. He's how more people with success should be, right? That are open. And he says that on his podcast that it really resonates with me, that he says that, if you're honest from the beginning of your career, that you're like, this is just who I am, and I'm going to have to make it being this way. Then there's never those curveballs like other celebrities get, where later on they're like, oh, you actually found out they're, doing drugs, and they're, then you're like, fuck, that person let me down. That's not who I thought they were. But if someone just is who they are from the beginning.
Yeah, just own it, I think. Because he doesn't never say that specifically, but I think he permeates that. Just own it.
He hasn't said it about himself, but he's talked about other actors or celebrities that now you're like, oh my God, I can't believe they're like that, because you thought of them differently because they were pretending to be something that their publicists and stuff had created. Instead of just being like, yeah, like I fucking swear sometimes, I like to drink, or I do this, or whatever your things are, right? Or I used to fight when I was younger or whatever. And he's done it. His podcast, I think, has, just inspired other people to do it and stuff too. It's such a great, I have nothing but great things to say about it.
That's why we're here.
Yeah, that's also, is that what inspired you guys to do yours?
Straight up. Yeah, straight up.
That's also why people believe him so much now too, right? It's just because he's like, he wouldn't lie. He wouldn't go do your film and just bullshit. Like, this just not what he would do.
And that's what's, even like his sponsors, like if I don't believe in the product, like, and with how big his things, he must be getting thrown all kinds of shit now, right? But he's like, no, if I think it's a shit product or an unethical company, like, awesome. You wish more people would be like that. Like, no, you guys use child labor. I'm not going to rep your project. I don't care how much money you throw at me as a celebrity. Like, that's honorable, right? Like, I'm not saying you shouldn't want to make money and everything else too. Like, I'm not saying screw capitalism but at the same time, it's good when you're like, no, that company's really unethical. I'm not doing a fucking ad for them, and I'll promote this thing like Bulletproof Coffee or On It or things that I think are cool.
Yeah, I think people get that. This week, London Real meets UFC fighter Dan Hardy.
I'm not an athlete. I'm a fighter that's trying to be a martial artist.
His wins and his losses.
That's it, I'm done. I'm not enjoying it anymore. This is not fun for me anymore. I'm not getting anything out of it. I'm just getting damaged.
He talks the spirit world.
The thing is, like, ayahuasca doesn't necessarily do anything to change the person. It just helps the person understand who they are.
And introduces the wolf heart.
They want to feed the wires into my heart so they can measure the second heartbeat. So they can then burn it.
This Sunday, London Real presents Dan Hardy, Uncut.
Every subject's on the table, so feel free to ask away.